shortage of Steves in the world on the news this morning. Been sent by a few people.
Oh, Colin, Craig and Derek.
Craig as well, is it? Yeah, because they're talking Butler. Colin's a good one. Derek.
Yeah, you don't get many people these days go, oh, yeah, well, here's my son, Colin.
Yeah. Keith. Gary.
Gary, you were talking about yesterday, weren't we? The Gary one. Are we rolling? Yeah. Hello and welcome to the Construction Sport Podcast. We have a very special guest, very, very special guest. No one other but my dear old friend, my tutor group buddy, 7H till we die, William Polston. Welcome to the pod.
I wonder how Mrs. Chalice is these days.
She lives around the corner from me.
No, she doesn't.
She does.
No, she doesn't.
She 100% does. Honestly, if I need to get anything through
Her
Purley...
worst nightmare, walking down the street one day, seeing you.
And then I've got Roma as well over the road. Yeah. Then Miss Duke over the road as well. So all the teachers are in Purley. Yeah, it is. She's got a soft spot for me as well still. But she had to, didn't she?
So this is our year 7 tutor who I think would have paid to not have you in our tutor group. I'm pretty sure it was. I'm pretty sure you used to cause her hair to fall out and all sorts.
Honestly, if you need to get anything through Purley Parish Council, you come to me and I go to Miss Chalice. That's the way. I was on the school PTA and it come up and they said about the village hall. And they said, if we need to contact the village hall who we speak to, and they said, it's Jill Chalice. And they said, Steve, that can be your job. So, yeah, she loves us. And now she's literally around the corner. See her, the village hall's 50 metres from my front door, and she manages it. So, Miss Chalice.
Yeah, well.
How's life?
Yeah, good. Lots
Busy
going on. Yeah, lots happening.
All over?
Not as all over as I have been, but that's kind of by design. Yeah.
Cool. And you are operating all over the world, really, though, don't you? With what you do, online,
ish. Yeah, I mean, we've got components that are online, but the majority is UK. We've got people like I've had clients in Dubai, Spain, Ibiza, Singapore, Canada, America, but the core bulk are in the UK. Still a few people overseas now, but it just happens that they are English that have moved overseas rather than.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah. Rather than.
What is it you class yourself? What is your title? What do you say? What you do? That's probably the best way to say it.
What do I do? What do I do? I help people unlock their next level of potential, performance, and purpose.
Cool.
Predominantly, the majority of my clients are entrepreneurs and business owners. Yeah. So yeah, helping them to sort of master their mindset.
Do you have a crossover in the sports world or with athletes?
Yeah, I've done a few stuff with people I can't talk about. A couple of very well-known professional boxers. Cool. Did some mindset stuff with those guys in years gone by. And yeah, there's the thing is with sport is that for a lot of people, yourself included, it becomes something that people got an interest in. So they've got the interest in doing it and they want to do it. I quite like business. So that for me kind of sits in a space, but yeah, and then there's been other people that have gone on to do some pretty extreme stuff in terms of their specific industry outside of that as well. But
where did your mindset passion for it come from? Because you was at school, wasn't it? You was always at the Live Strong armbands flying out.
Well, yeah,
the sales side.
So what you and do you remember our business that we set up together?
Yeah, yes, yeah. Second-hand ski gear.
Yeah, that's still in my parents' loft.
Is it? I completely forgot about that.
Yeah. So what actually happened, and I know you know this, but you definitely wouldn't have known this at school. But the short version is that I grew up with a belief that money equaled happiness. Right.
Yeah.
So when it was all of the jokes, if I was the wheeler of a dealer and you talk about selling Livestrong bands and Burberry hats and. Do you remember those stickers that people used to stick on their 3210 that used to go up that we used to say that stopped you getting cancer? Like bearing in mind we're like 13 years old. This is 25 years ago.
We're still alive.
So it was it was all born from a belief that money equaled happiness. And I was doing whatever I could to make money, and money for me was a gateway to be able to do the things that I then wanted to do that I wasn't able to do due to circumstances which we can go into if you want. Around other things. So I found the means of me making money. So in school, I mean, I started working in a bar when I was 14 years old.
Yes.
And I worked there. And then I would when I turned 17, I would work Monday to Friday and Saturday, albeit I had Wednesdays off. But then I would do Indian takeaways, like delivery driver. I used to earn a fortune doing Indian delivery drivers for being an Indian delivery driver for like three hours and free dinner. Yeah, you'd honestly, even back then, I used to
in your Golf.
So it was in my Golf, yeah. And then we had a disaster in the Golf, which kind of was the end of that. But the
with a curry,
yeah. So what I used to do was, so they'd give you like for anyone that's ever ordered a curry before, you normally get like the little pots, don't you? Like the foil pots with the little thin cardboard lid, and they stack them all in and they put them in like a brown paper bag and then either a brown paper bag or like a plastic white bag after. Yep. So what I would do is I would always get in the car and then put it in the footwell of the car, the passenger footwell. And one day it was pitch black, and I've got out at this house, and they had ordered like £45 worth of curry, and I've picked up the bag, and as I picked it up, it's got caught. The bag has got caught on the handle that you use under the seat to move the seat back and forth. And as I've pulled it, the whole thing has undone, and it's all gone all over my gear stick, all down the sides of the seats for like 3 weeks. I had the car profession. The stink in that smell of chicken tikka masala was just ridiculous. But anyway, so yeah, there was those components, but did that, and then what happened was eventually I got involved with financial services, and when I was I was surrounded by people making some really good money, really, really good money. And I was just observing what the patterns with those that did the best in terms of making the most money versus others. And a few of the ones that were doing really well were quite into this thing called personal development. And one day, one of them said to me, read this book he was actually reading a passage out of this book called The Secret. I thought, that's really good. I went to W.H. Smith, bought that book that night, read it. And what I read in that book, which was all about the law of attraction, I had been doing my life. So you probably remember us growing up. I used to have petrol scooters and mini motos and things like that. Things that I bought myself. These weren't things my parents had bought, but from the money I was making, I was able to buy these things. And I'd been applying the law of attraction without realizing I'd been applying the law of attraction. So I thought, wow, if now I was doing that without even realizing what I was doing.
It would have been like wanting something, go out and get it in a way.
In short, yeah, it's wanting something, believing that it's possible, holding that thought in your mind, knowing that you've already got it, picturing it in your mind's eye. So even before I had a mini moto, I would see myself driving up and down on the road on it. I would see myself visualize in my mind's eye riding round on. So my parents' house used to back onto a river, and I'd visualize myself riding around on this. I remember it was a Desert Storm petrol scooter that I had.
It was a proper scooter.
It was a beast, wasn't it? It all camouflage up, and it had these bright white big pegs on it. It was massive. But I would visualize myself riding around on it, and then before I know it, it would happen. So yeah, I was doing stuff towards it. So I did more and more on that, and the more personal development I did, the more money I made, and that went on for some years. And then 12 years ago was when I had what I call my lightning moment, and it was like bam, hit me, cried my eyes out for about 15 minutes, because in that moment I realized my real driver was not really about money. It was something much, much deeper than that. And from that moment on, I mean, I'd had the interest in personal development, but that point it just took it to a whole nother level.
Yeah.
And it's from that moment on, I've just been obsessed with anything to do with human awareness, human potential, human behavior.
Does that come with, I suppose, it all, especially with the business side of it, isn't it? How big a part that is in business, especially in sales. Obviously, so you push well in, don't you, over the time, your time at Zaga and back then, wasn't it? Always say, but how big a part that is in business, isn't it? In a way.
I think it's not just business. I think it's all areas. Success, however you define success, is 80% mindset, 20% skills and mechanics.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so most people, if you to ask them, they have something they want to be, do, or have in their life.
Yeah.
But for a lot of people, it stays a dream. It never becomes a goal. What's the difference? A goal is when you've got a practical roadmap you believe you can achieve. And for a lot of people, it's just a dream. It would be a dream to do this. Mm-hmm. It would be a dream to do that. Well, it doesn't have to be a dream. Turn a dream into a goal. Let's make a roadmap. Let's build a strategic plan to be able to get there. And some cool stuff can happen. Mm. But it all starts with changing the way you think. If you think differently, you act differently. If you act differently, you get different results.
Yeah, I get that. For sure. And I think especially had it probably feeding off of you as well over the years, compliments to yourself and thank you, but seeing it, I suppose, and you do get that, didn't you? I suppose it's kind of a path that we're led here, really, is the same. We know what we kind of want. How do we get there? We don't know, but we're just going to keep on pushing and learn along the way and get there somehow, isn't it? Mm. But with that, you've collated quite a strong network, haven't you? Because all those kind of people pushing, I suppose, all your clientele are all, I was trying to say it's guys earlier, so you're pushing so well with multiple people, but then all those people become your network and they all become able to help each other as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it falls into the mix. I think inherently people have a desire to want to do good,
Yeah.
and I'm a big believer in that. But for the majority of people, they just don't know what they don't know,
Yeah.
and they're not aware. They haven't created the awareness.
Oh, someone else said that the other day. You don't know what you don't know. I'm like,
Yeah, so I call it three, all possible knowledge. So if you think of all possible knowledge, there's three types. There's what you know that you know. So if I said to you, Stephen, could you build this table? You know how to build a table. You know that you could do that. If you said to me, Will, can you wire this room up for that electricity? Well, I know I can't do that. So
Yep.
there's information I know, and there's information I know that I don't know. But then there's information that you don't know that you don't know. Information, things you're completely unaware of that are having an impact on what you do, what you say, how you show up in the world on a regular basis. And I suppose my various different learnings and tools and stuff over the years have helped me help others get more of what they want out of their life in whatever area it might be.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's strategic stuff and there's some real practical stuff that's involved with it. Sometimes it's more of a mindset thing, a way of thinking about things. And in life, if you don't like something, change it. And if you can't change it, then you change the way you think about it. It's as simple as that.
Will you get people come to you and just say that here's the point I want to get to? Can I engage with your services employed to help us get to that point? That's and they will stick with you.
Yeah, but I have a lot of people that say, well, I don't know where I want to get to. So spectrum-wise, I've had everybody on the spectrum from people that have won Britain's Got Talent, people that have sold their business for 300 million quid, right down to the people that have they want to start a business and they're hating their job and they want to just be able to do something else.
Yep.
And everything in between. So yeah, from my perspective, it's really quite varied, but there's a science and so
I'll say that science.
it's turning it into a science. The art is choosing what's right for you, or what's right for Alex, or what's right for anybody that's the art component. But the science, it's like a recipe. You need ingredients. You need the right ingredients first of all. Then once you've got the ingredients, you need to make sure you've got the right amounts and quantities.
Yep.
Once you've got the right amounts of quantities, then you need to make sure you put them in the right order and sequence. Because you try and bake a cake, but instead of using sugar, you use salt. You put it in the wrong order, it's going to be a nightmare. And then even once you've got that right, so you've got the ingredients, you've got the amounts and quantities, you've got the order and sequence, then you've got to make sure you've got the right intensity and the right duration that you're doing the thing for. I mean, we were chatting just before, weren't we, about podcasts and certain successful podcasts. And there's a trend, most big podcasts, they're not someone that started last week and's popped up out of nowhere. They've been doing it 5-6 years. They're 500, 700 plus episodes into it, unless they've got something else that they're leveraging. Davina McCall, she's been around for 25 years as a celebrity. Her launching a podcast, all of a sudden, she's getting all of that poured in. Now, that said, her podcast is owned by Flight Story, which is owned by Stephen Bartley, who's got thousands of hours of experience. So all of a sudden, you get the benefit of all of that skill of being able to get
that's like those guys. Was it the guys you go to that studio in East London? Fella Studios, what all these younger lads listen to nowadays. It's just a studio set up, isn't it? And he brings on people straight away, and boom, they're right up there. But it is so easy to go online, isn't it? And go, I want a podcast like that, and within 6 months, you go, oh, we ain't getting that good, sorry, I'll cancel it. Yeah. How many podcasts come and go, don't they?
Well, I think that's a really important lesson for life. So back in 2016, I did a charity boxing match. Did you come to that?
Yes, I did. I was in your corner.
Yeah. And we'll jump to the good part. And actually, no, we'll leave people waiting for a little bit and tell them the result of what happened. But the so charity boxing match. I decided to do it for a charity. It was a white collar fight, which normally it was, Upton Park, and in the Working Man's Club, which I believe is it's gone now. That was there, but I did it raising money for a charity that was caring for my cousin before she died, and I wanted to do it, and I'd never boxed before. I played ice hockey, so I had a few fights, and but other than that, I hadn't properly boxed. And I went to do that. And
never had a fight elsewhere from there, did you, William?
Never. And I thought, I'm gonna do this, and I got a couple of coaches that were working with me. And one day, I was doing quite a lot of running back then, and I was going out for a run, and I said to my boxing coach, I said to him, I'm when I'm running, I'm envisaging my partner 10 meters out in front of me, and I'm running behind him, and I'm catching up, and I'm getting ahead of him. And he said, "Will, you're an idiot."
Yeah.
And I was like, I thought it was a really good idea. And he said, "No, you're an idiot." He said, "The reason you're an idiot is because if you're envisaging you're getting ahead of him, then in real life, if you were running, he might be 20 meters ahead of you still."
Yeah.
He said, "What you're far better to do was go running." But you know when you used to play on the PlayStation or whatever, and you play on the car games that would go around the track, and they'd do like the fastest lap. It was like the ghost car that would go around. He said, "You're better at imagining that the thing that's in front of you is the best version of you.
Yeah.
And how close are you to the very best version of you? Because if you are the best version of you and you lose, then that's fine. You got beat. But if you don't give the best version of you and you lose, then you lost." And I was like, "Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good." So from that moment on, I just thought, yep, that was it. So I just run with the best version of me. And look, I'm human. There's a big difference between giving it your all and giving it everything. Giving it your best and giving it your all. And that's the key in that specific moment, is that my best on one day is different to my best on another day.
Yep.
But have I given it my all in that moment
Yep.
to get the outcome I want?
Jess Tapping, her half Dan, when they come in, because he said that as well, how it was so important to run your own race and not focus on, because they're competing with other athletes all the time, especially running alongside each other. So you're focusing on beating this person next to you all the time. You're actually X amount of percentage of your time and effort is going into someone else's race and not your own. And saying how you've got to strategically make sure you push yourself.
Yeah. Have I improved on yesterday? And I think there's a lot to be said for that. And there's certain practices that I do on a daily basis that are enabling me to do my best. And I'm not saying to improve every day, because that doesn't always happen, but do my best to improve. Like I've had some tough times, and like lots of people. But it's have I done my best in that moment? You know, is tomorrow better than today? And do we keep working forward and moving forward in that respect?
Yeah, and sobriety we can too, because you've been in that world now. How long have you been? Say
7 years.
Do you quit sobriety? Because you're not.
No, I don't even do it. For me, so look, I started playing rugby when I was 4.
Yeah.
Started playing ice hockey when I was 8. I've been around lads culture. We were going out and drinking in Indian restaurants when we were 15 years old. You know, I don't know whether we should be saying that or not.
Talk for yourself. I was at home doing my homework.
and
Hide the scars.
I've never been someone to drink daily. So the idea of coming home and cracking up a bit. I mean, I could probably count on one hand the amount of times I've come home of an evening and had a bit. Like, just don't do it. However, a Thursday night, a Friday night, a Saturday night, drinking until I black out, was doing it very regularly. And it got to the point where I would go out and have these big nights out, spend an absolute fortune, not remember it the next day, wake up with massive beer fear, messages on my phone, people saying, "You're an idiot, doing this, done that." Oh my God, I can't believe it. And then it was on my 29th birthday. I remember going to a restaurant near here called the Line Inn, and I had a particular goal I wanted to achieve by the time I was 30, and I just thought to myself, every time I'm drinking, I'll go out on a Thursday night or a Friday night or whatever. By the time I come back into work on a Monday, I'm at 60%. Tuesday, I'm at 70%. Wednesday, I'm at 80%. Thursday, I'm at 90%. Friday, I'll get back to 100%. And it's Groundhog Week. I'm doing it all over again. I thought, if I take a year out, I can do this. So I just said to myself, right, that's it. I remember having 3 beers at the Line Inn on my birthday when I was 29. And then I had that year, and then it was a challenge. You know, anybody who said, "Oh, do you want to drink?" No, I'm having a year off. And it was so easy to just go, I'm having a year off. Because once I made my mind up, a bit of banter from people from a few times. I'm sure you gave me some shit at some point.
No,
but,
never. I supported you all the way.
But but people were saying, but very quickly.
Bastard.
But what would have happened though? And I think this was certainly my experience, and maybe you can vouch for this. Is that I think most of my friends know me well enough that if I say I'm going to do something, I do it, and there's no point in even trying to convince otherwise. So I said that was the case. Then I ended up going about 18 months. And here's the thing that's really interesting. At the time, I met this new girl, and I really liked her. So I went to the year, and I was like, I do not miss this. I do not miss this. It was great. I was loving it. And I really liked this girl that I just started singing. And she had a fear because her ex-partner was an absolute knob when he was drunk. Yeah. And I was saying I'm not drinking. She said, "Look, Will, I'm quite keen to look at taking this further, but I've got to be honest with you, I'm a little bit worried because if you decide you're not drinking now, we get 2 years down the line and you turn out to be a knob because you start drinking. Like, I'm not getting any younger. She was a couple of years older than me, like thinking about kids and all that practical stuff. And I was like, no, I get it. So one night we went out, it was Halloween actually, and we went to a comedy club and I had a couple of beers and then she basically broke it off anyway. I wasn't a knob, like she just made her mind up that night. She said, no, let's go out, let's have a chat. And then she's like, no, Joe, I've been thinking this, which I kind of regret having those beers, I think. Then I had a couple more nights out, just a few beers here and there. And then I had one big blowout night and I thought, why am I doing this? It adds zero to my life. And what happened was that it's so easy to walk away from something when you associate pain with the thing of doing it and pleasure with the thing of not doing it. So what a lot of people do is they say, I'm going to stop drinking because of the pain, the hangovers, the money spent, whatever else. But they don't replace not doing it with pleasure. Mm-hmm. So you need both drivers. And what happens is that they associate pain with not doing it, and they associate pain with doing it and pain with not doing it.
Yeah.
And then it's what one ends up winning. You're relying on willpower. Yeah. Whereas if you can associate pleasure with not doing it and pain with doing it, you've got both of those forces working in your favour, and that goes for anything. Yeah, that goes for anything. And so that was it. I've still to this day never said I'm never going to drink again. I've not gone to like joined AA or anything like that. Not there's anything against that, but for me, I just made that decision and.
It makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? Because I even get now, especially older, and you can't handle a beer as much. Not that I've ever been able to handle a beer. But yeah, knowing that a Sunday morning you can be fresh and ready and go out and have a walk at 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning, that pleasure is quite nice.
And that's what I mean by the pleasure. Yeah. Looking forward to I'm getting up at 5, I'm going out for a run. How much? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that was the thing for me as well. Like I've been a morning person for a long time. So often I'd wake up at 5 in the morning and then get loads done, really productive all day, and then get to Sunday the night, go to bed 9, 10 o'clock, whatever. And then the weekend would come around and I'd be hungover. I'd get out of bed at 10 or 11 and I'd want to get back into bed at like 8 or 9, and I might have even had a nap in the afternoon. It was just a waste, an absolute waste. So anyway, so that's the situation with alcohol.
I get it as well, especially like you say on the Mondays. We get it, especially in the construction world, the Monday club, and I haven't got much sympathy for people in that Monday club, but you've got to understand people got different problems or whatever, but it is one of them, isn't it? Until you hold yourself accountable, then it's not going to really fix itself. You need to do something about it yourself, really.
What you've just said there, which is what I believe most people don't do, your whole life can change when you take radical accountability. Yeah. Everything is your responsibility. Yeah. Your life right now, if it's not the way you want it to be, it's down to you. Mm-hmm. If it is the way you want it to be, it's down to you. And there's a difference between fault and responsibility. So if you take the word responsibility, it's your ability to respond. So if something isn't the way you want it to be right now, then you have the ability to change it. Yeah. And a lot of people will sit there for a long time and go, well, it isn't this and this isn't the case. But actually, if they go, no, this is the situation, I'm going to choose to do something about it. Yeah.
Then especially the line of work as well, isn't it? How many people are in those jobs? And it's down to them, I suppose, isn't it? People don't want to be in a job, but they'll sit back and go, and dwell themselves down and drive themselves.
What I will say though, and this kind of comes back to the thing we were talking about of we don't know what you don't know. Yeah. And if it starts with that first component of I'm taking 100% radical responsibility for the way that my life is, I'm not going to blame the government. I'm not going to blame the boss. I'm not going to blame anything. It's on me. There's a famous old saying, which I'm going to paraphrase. I think I might get it slightly wrong. If it's to be, it's up to me. Okay. Yeah. Which I think is quite a good one, isn't it? So it's like, right, if I want it to be that way, it's down to me to be able to do it and change it and do the things. And it doesn't happen overnight, but just knowing that you're on that path and moving forward.
I spotted a trend in my days of having miserable days or just being angry. Not angry, but just having the difference between a good day and a bad day. Literally based on the podcast that I listened to in the van in the morning when I went to work.
That's interesting.
On the topic, what it was. Yeah. And I noticed it because you can listen, like some podcasts, especially our one as well, you get different guests with different topics. And some of them are dark, some of them are quite enlightening. And I noticed this thing, I thought, Christ, you get in the van and suddenly you heard about someone, how they've a gangster who's murdered 25 people or something gory like that. And I noticed the real trend in my day then was, or accidentally flicking the radio on and hearing something about,
well,
it is doom and gloom.
There's certain things you can look at, right? So I do my best to protect my world. So there's a few things that people might want to do that might be practical. So how can you be proactive and not reactive? Well, first of all, I have all of my notifications off.
Yeah.
All of my notifications. I don't any notifications for social media, because if I want to use social media, I will go into it. Like that for me is one of them.
Yeah.
Not watch the news
Yeah.
is another one. Like, just don't watch the news.
100%,
Is another one, to be able to cut that out. Start your day by having something positive to be able to start your day with and give you some perspective. I'm really quite into Stoicism, which is a form of ancient wisdom.
Ross Hedgley talks a lot about that. You see, Ross Hedgley done a lot of ultra marathons and stuff.
The Stoicism is brilliant, and there's a great little book called The Daily Stoic, and I just read one page a day, and it's about perspective. And it just gives you something to thought on. So it gives you something to think on. You go, oh, that's interesting, and you go away. But you say learning something, filling your mind. Your mind is like a sponge. If you're filling it with great information, positive, uplifting. Say about gory stuff. Like I don't watch horror movies because I just don't like them.
Yeah,
I like watching comedy, but it's how can I fill myself with information that is gonna make me feel good, and this podcast and other resources definitely help with that.
I can't get my head around the horror films. I know we probably back in the day Freddy Krueger or something, but now, Lauren, I literally get clammy hands. And I get all chucked. I'm thinking about laughing now about it. And I'll get all just like it's all just nervous energy of it. And we've watched a little bit of like Gogglebox, and it'll show something up there, and I'm on the edge of my feet. 24 hours in A&E, things like that. I can't do it. All gory.
I'll close my eyes. If I know something, I've been watching Mobland recently, which is
so
brilliant,
good.
right? But if I know something, I'm about to see someone get shot in the face, I'll close my eyes and wait until I heard the sound go off, give it a few seconds, and open my eyes, hoping that it's gone off the screen.
So, especially in that, if you go, I'll just go, oh!
It's bad. But look, I think that, again, you talk about feeling good and days you're feeling good. Yeah. Happiness, so touching on that, happiness is equal to or greater than your expectations. So if people are thinking, I'm not happy, well, what's your expectations? And how big is that gap? You can then focus on closing that gap. If you can't close that gap, then you can change the way you think about it and take a different perspective.
So you're setting, from our perspective, when you're looking at a business, they go, I want to be there. Do you break it right down to make it lots of smaller steps? Or would you say always keep that North Star?
Give me an example of what you mean.
With us, you can educate us now. So we are going to change the law at Construction Sport. We are going to change employment law.
Okay, but that's not what you want. Yeah. So that's a mechanism.
Yeah.
The outcome that you want, what does changing the law lead to?
Reduce suicide within the construction sector.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So your goal, or what I would refer to as a North Star, so we've not even touched on North Star. So
I was saying, I back of my mind.
Yeah, I believe in, and it kind of comes back to my thing before, which I'm happy to touch on. So I grew up with this belief that money equaled happiness, and as you know about, and where that actually come from, and I don't even know if you know this, Steve, but so I've got two very wealthy uncles. One of my uncles is a billionaire, the other one's a multi-millionaire. And Dad always used to say they just got lucky, right? That was his thing. Now, don't get me wrong, we lived in a lovely house. You know my whole family, right? But my dad used to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, come home at 7, 8 o'clock at night. He'd bring the stress and frustration of work home with him. And I don't know if anyone listening to this can relate to it, but it's like that feeling when someone walks in the room, you can feel the tension.
Yeah.
And I remember being 8, 9, 10 years old and that being the case. And look, it wasn't all bad. I had a very loving childhood, just to make that really clear. But I just specifically remember that. And one day my dad came home and he'd quit his job to set up a business with one of my uncles. And I remember thinking, yes, this is it. Dad's going to be just like Uncle Steve. Because my uncles are quite, the good energy, good people to be around, like quite fun, I suppose you would say. And whereas then my sort of experience with my dad was kind of stressed and frustrated. So there was a difference. And then that business never got started. My dad then didn't want to go back into London, and I remember these moments of like where he would be sleeping in a separate room with the curtain shut, in a separate room to my mum, and just life changes. I knew it. Mum went out and worked multiple different jobs to keep a roof over our head, versus whereas before she'd kind of been there looking after us all. And look, I say this is not woe is me. It's not a Cinderella story, but it was just life change for me as I knew it. And that's when I went, right, I get it now. Uncle Mark, billionaire, really happy. Uncle Steve, multi-millionaire, he's really happy. Dad, when he worked in London, stressed and frustrated. Now, no job, not feeling like we've got money. It's really bad. So it's obvious, isn't it? I'm 10 years old. I'm obvious. Money equals happiness. Yeah. And that was the trajectory of what kind of really kicked it off. Then fast forward, like we spoke about, the stuff wheeling and dealing at school, getting into finance, doing all that stuff, and then it was a time when I had I had convertible cars and watches and this and that and all this stuff, and I just wasn't happy. It's always like, what's next, what's next, what's next, and that was when I realised that money's just it's not about money.
Yeah.
You know, what actually happened was I went to a personal development event. So I was reading all these books, getting into it. There's a guy called Tony Robbins, and I went to one of his events, and then there was this intervention he did, and it completely altered my way of thinking, because that was the moment where I realised it wasn't really about money. It was to do with my dad, how my dad hadn't achieved maybe certain things he was capable of, and the impact that had on him and mum and me and my family. And I vowed I don't want other people to go through that suffering that he went through and we went through. Like you with construction sport, you don't want other people to go through suffering. I get it. So from that moment on, I've just been obsessed with anything to do with human awareness, human potential, human behavior. So my North Star now is about getting people to transform excuses into results and live a life they love, unlock their full potential, improve their performance, and have a life and business with purpose. So that's what I'm doing. So that's the mission, if you like, that I'm on. Now, I've got certain goals. So that I refer to as the North Star being a mission in life that's the equivalent of trying to empty the sea with a spoon. So for you, it's like we want to continue to improve the mental health in the construction sector. Like, that's not your thing, but it's along those lines. Now, one of the components of that will be, our goal is, because you'll know the stats off the top of your head, the amount of suicides in the construction sector is 2 a day, right? So 2 a day, 780, whatever it is. So 780 odd. Now, you may set a challenge that within the next 5 years, let's say, you want that goal to be under 100, under 10, under 12, 0, whatever the number may be. And you put that milestone. Then one of the mechanisms that enables that to happen is a change in law. You say, right, we want to have a change in law. Great. What do we then need to do to change the law? Practically speaking, well, you need a petition with 100,000 or whatever the things are that you need to be able to do. And also, there's a lot of value when you're looking to try and do something. I joke with people, it's, what's the difference between laziness and efficiency? Like, what's the difference between an efficient person and a lazy person? Arguably the same. They're the same, because a really efficient person looks lazy. They're getting other people to do stuff, right? But so there's a saying which is who, not how. So rather than going, how am I going to do this? We'll change the letters of the word and go, well, who do I need to be able to do this? Because a lot of things in life, it's not necessarily what you know, it's who you know. And if you could have one conversation or get one introduction with the right person, and you can be strategic about that, then you can find that things can happen a lot faster.
That, especially operate now. That's why the boys behind the camera do what they do. But yeah, you get to a point you realise, actually, I can't do all this, do I? I need to find someone who can do it for me and build it around you.
And you're at your detriment if you do, right? So everyone has strengths, everyone has weaknesses, but and look, I work in the world with a lot of business owners and entrepreneurs, and generally speaking, certainly when they start out, there is this view they need to do everything themselves, if nothing else, just to save money, right? But actually, it's the polar opposite. If they double down on the thing that they're best at, if they double down on the thing that they enjoy the most, it's typically the thing that makes the most money, which enables them to afford to pay other people. So it's actually a better investment to pay for people to be able to do certain things. But in the context that you're talking about, it's like we have this goal. Now, when you then talk about, right, this is our mission that we're on, and you've experienced this firsthand in how many years now have you had construction sport?
The idea started 2016 was the idea.
Right.
Day one.
So
we've been from let off steam to construction sport in 2022.
Right. So when you first had that idea, the mission hasn't changed. So what I would call the North Star hasn't changed. The more you talk about that, the people that are most inspiring are most inspired. So what happens is you are inspired to want to do something. People think, wow, he's inspiring, what he's doing for the industry, what he's doing. They now want to enroll into your mission. And then what happens over time is you recruit people that are aligned with your way of doing things and want to support and want to join the mission and want to be able to make things happen. And then what happens is that you end up with the collective of everybody working together with one main common goal, and some amazing stuff can happen.
It is, and we noticed actually we had a meeting yesterday. We sat down with a consultancy company that's been funded by Aspen Insurance. Ryan Cushway, he's the insurance company he works for. support us with a consultancy company to sit down with us and from a charity perspective more than a business perspective, show us how we need to go going forward and where we need to go to.
Yeah, and there's a lot to be said for that. So I think of the ultimate peer group. So the ultimate peer group in the context of personal development and getting stuff done consists of three different types of people. So there's people that are mentors, people that are a few steps ahead of you that have done what you want to do. Then you have peers, the people that are at your level, and there's people that are a few steps behind you. So if we use you and construction support charity as an example, there'll be someone right now that is wanting to start a charity. They've got no idea where to go, no idea what to do. Well, there'd be someone that you could be a mentor to, and they would be a mentee of yours. You could give them a few tips. Hey, do this, don't do this. This is going to get you going faster. Then you've got other people that are about your level that enable you to keep the saw sharp. Right, we're doing this. This is working currently. Blah 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 blah. And then there's the people that are a few steps ahead of you. So if you turn around and want to, if you've got a goal, for example, of which I know you have, of making a law change, then finding whether it be other charities or other organisations that have been able to what have they done to be able to make that happen. You go and find a few of them, and they'll be like, right, what you need is you need to find a few different people that can come and lobby for you and do this and do this and do this. And they're just going to give you the shortcut. They're just going to give you the roadmap to be able to do it.
Yeah.
So.
And that's kind of what I suppose is now. So I was never in this world. I never expected to be in this place where we're doing now. So I've got to finish in school. But it's now, is that and realising we need all these people, on the ground of the industry to get behind us. So then we need to identify these other organisations that are also fighting similar fights in different ways. And then we've spoken to 3 different universities this week, actually, over the last 2 weeks, that are all feeding and want to work with us in some way to help back up the research and stuff that's out there and their actual aim is to change this law thing as well. So is that, I suppose, it becomes this massive fucking tree of huge push really, and it can't be ignored then, I suppose.
And to use America for a moment, I don't know whether it's a good idea to bring politics into the show or not, but to use America, but well, more so than that, if you look what happened is that for years there has been bubbling underway a real thing around food in America and all of the additives and the shit that they put into their food. And there's been a few people that have been consistently flying the flag no matter what, one being RFK Jr. And then what happened was there was an opportunity for RFK Jr. to get into the mix. And they came up with this whole thing of Make America Healthy Again. And there is a huge percentage of the population that may not have agreed with Trump's other policies and whatever else, but they did agree, we want to have healthy children. So there was this whole movement of people going, do you know what? I don't necessarily agree with some of this stuff that you're saying, but what I do agree with is that we need to make America healthy again, and we need to cut out all of these different things, and we need to stop making people have to have these vaccinations and blah, 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 blah. And then all of a sudden, the whole Make America Healthy Again movement has progressed. And RFK originally was running his own race, but he decided to align with Donald Trump because he felt that whilst he wouldn't have been then president, which what he wanted was to make America healthy again. So he was willing to sort of not continue running that race if it meant that by aligning with Trump, he could do that. And it seems to be...
That's put your ego aside a little bit.
Exactly that. Put my ego aside, and actually, why am I really doing it? What I'm really doing it for is to have the impact. So look, that's the
I suppose that's how politics works ultimately, isn't it? You see all these lobbying things, and we spoke to it from speaking to a few MPs over the last few months, and you can see they haven't got a passion really of what they want to talk about, but they know that you come with this audience that is going to help them with their bigger picture, isn't it? Or their North Star.
What I was going to say, because I'm the thing that's really stuck with me is what you said about when you're in the car and you're listening to a podcast episode that becomes a really good day versus one that isn't. What do we need to talk about for someone to listen to this, for them to go, every time I'm having a shit day, I'm going to go and listen to this episode?
Yeah.
What do we need to discuss?
Yeah.
What are the sort of things, like when you're having a bad day, or you're in the van, or someone's in the van right now, they're driving to work, or they're on the train or whatever, what are some of the things that are going through their mind that maybe if there's some stuff that I know that I could share that could mean that as and when and if they find themselves in those moments, that they can come back to this and use this as a resource that means that it turns into a positive day.
A reset episode. There you go, put that on, you'll laugh again. On the flip side in the morning, that is Friends at night time to me. Before I go to bed, I think it's I know a lot of people do this, but watch something was a bit intense or your intense day, put Friends on at night. You know you'll sleep better. You have a hard 20 minutes, probably even 10 minutes before you fall asleep, but it almost settles you again.
Yeah.
And I think, there's a lot of people I've spoken to. Yeah, we watch something intense downstairs or some action, Mobland, and then go to bed and go, right, I just need 5 minutes of Friends. So it's almost that on the flip reversal, isn't it? Waking up in the morning, what do I need to have to start the day? Because it's even with the kids in the car last week, so cutting out the news. The 2 kids in the car, and I had radio on for a change, what I don't very rarely listen to. If it's the kids in there, it's normally Frozen or something like that. I hit 3 radio stations, and they all said in that quick amount of time about stabbings, deaths, or in age of quarter. And this is I'm trying, not because I don't want to listen to it. I'm trying to defend my kids' ears from listening to that. But that's in society as a whole, isn't it? So we just need to come away from that. There's the guys who are part of the Reverend certain churches. They actually pull the radios out of the cars, and they don't have TVs at home. You can see how the years ago they seemed mad. I think that's actually.
Well, I could not tell you the last time that I watched normal television, like analog television. Obviously I watch Netflix and Amazon Prime or whatever, but I could not tell you 10 years longer maybe. But so what you talk about morning and evening routine. So set your day up. So I'm a big believer, if you win your morning, you'll win your day. What are some of the components that people can introduce into a morning routine? So one of the things is, I think it's the biggest, most underrated tool that anybody can use, to the point of, if we think foundational principles, so let's just talk foundational principles for a moment. Getting a good quality night's sleep starts with what you do in the day. So actually, let's imagine you've just woken up. Your sleep tonight starts with what you do this morning from the moment you've woken up. So the foundational pieces is obviously sleep, nutrition. Are you eating a load of shit, processed food, like ultra processed food, rather than trying to getting some good food? I mean, we're not talking you've got to be eating rice, broccoli, and chicken just super lean every day, but not just eating super ultra processed foods. Making sure you're getting enough water. Again, it's a basic thing that a lot of people don't do. But the bit that I think is a little bit of a superpower for most people that almost hardly anybody does is a form of mindfulness, right? We were just walking in here. You got your Wim Hof poster you're creating for your event that you're doing, and just doing some basic meditation as a form of mindfulness practice. 10 minutes a day. First thing when you wake up in the morning can make the world of difference. So that's one of the things. The other one is forms of affirmations. So we have a way where we talk to ourselves internally, and that can be positive or negative. So if you've got very negative, it can be very aggressive. So a lot of people, they will have ants, so automatic negative thoughts. And the reason being is that the human brain is a couple of million years old, and it's designed to make us survive. And it's done a very good job at making the human species survive the last few million years. And it's done that because it's constantly looking for threats. It's constantly looking for problems. Well, in today's day and age, we don't have to worry about the saber-toothed tiger that's going to come and get us. But we do need to train our mind to focus on the positive instead. So we can do that really consciously by using affirmations. An affirmation is like a word, like a sentence where you would say to yourself, something you would say to yourself that will condition you to think how you want to think. So, for example, one of my daily affirmations is, I'm focused on fair exchange. With fair exchange, everyone wins. So if I find myself in a situation where it's potentially going to become lose-win or win-lose, I remind myself to come back to that. There are, and there's numerous ones I've got. So that's affirmation. Using visualization. So Mary Morrissey has an amazing quote, which is, hold the vision, not the circumstance. Every single person at some point is going to go through some shit that they want to be going through daily, weekly, monthly, whatever it might be, for a period of time. But if you can hold the vision of a future that is what you want it to be, and you can picture it in real great detail. So closing your eyes and going into your mind's eye and seeing what that would be. What would your ideal day would look like? What is the weekend you want to be looking forward to? What would the Monday morning that you wake up looking forward to have to consist of? Holding that vision, feeling those feelings, seeing what you would see, hear what you would hear what you would hear, is super powerful. Obviously doing some form of exercise. And then the other one is, which we kind of touched on, is doing some form of learning in the morning, reading one page of something positive, listening to a particularly uplifting podcast. Something that served me well for many years is finding people that really inspire me. So, and that could be, I don't know, a Richard Branson, listening to his book, hearing about the hardships he's gone through and going through those types of things. Because like you say, you could listen to someone on a podcast who's sharing their story of like a really traumatic story.
Yep.
And whilst you go, wow, that's that. But what are the inspirational stories?
Yeah. We get that actually now on projects. We're asked to go and do talks on sites. And I've come away from the going doom and gloom and talking about my mental health story, should we say? Because I'm like, it doesn't uplift people. You know, because like I say, again, it's my gory story put on someone else.
Well, it does if it's framed right. So if you I think that there's a lot to be said for sharing a story, because what happens if someone's going through a tough time now, they recognize your vulnerability. They see it as you being authentic. And if you are here now and they're here now, by you going, hey, I was here, but I got back up to here, you're giving them permission to see what's possible. Yep. But if you don't tap on the end part, if you go, I was in this really dark place and and this was happening, and it never got any better. And it stayed the same. And
right. That's
then
probably
people
what
go,
I'm thinking of now.
oh my God, like that. That's whereas if you think of any like really inspirational, whether it's the person that like lost their legs or the person that, I don't know, whatever it might be, it's called the hero's journey. Joseph Campbell's the hero journey. Is they go out, they wanted to seek something, they fell into the abyss, they had all the trials, the tribulations, and whatever else, and they came out the other side. It's coming out the other side that people want to be inspired by to know what becomes possible.
You've referenced it in the past. I actually can't remember what the actual link with it is now, but you've always said about Disney. And you've said it before. I quite like the story,
what's Walt Disney doing? Yeah, so and it kind of comes back
all
to when I was learning about the law of attraction. So this was really interesting. So I'm a patterns guy. Like I've worked with probably 2,500 individual people, done 7,000 plus hours of one-on-one coaching. So I'm constantly seeing the patterns, and no matter what's going on in people's life, with people want to make money, had money, lost money, getting divorced, whatever, the patterns are the same, and. And I was just observing the pattern in Disney. There's certain things that you see that play out over and over and over again. Scooby-Doo being one of them. Scooby-Doo has the same framework every single time, right? The context changes, but you know they're going to go out, something's going to happen, someone's going to disappear in, and everyone ends where they pull the thing over, like pull the mask off the person. Oh my God, I can't believe this is person, or whatever it is. It's the same in every Disney story. They go through it's called The Hero's Journey by Joseph Campbell, but what I realized was that what was Walt Disney, and I never had the pleasure of asking him this, so I don't know the answer, but and I wrote a blog that got published in the Huffington Post, which was, what was Walt Disney doing to children, or what is Walt Disney really doing to children? And what I took from it was that he was trying to inspire the next generation and show them what's possible. If you look at every Disney story, it starts off with adversity. Cinderella, Lion King, you name it, they go through the adversity and then they come out on top. When you wish upon a star, like when you like I would call it the North Star, when you believe in something that's possible, your dreams will come true. Like it's being able to focus on these things and do these things and provide that inspiration. And I think a lot of people have never viewed it in that light.
I have, I mean, you put that a few years ago, didn't you? I think you've done it, and it's always stuck with me. And I went Disneyland Paris last year and fucking loved it as well. I'm not gonna lie, it was a big child. It was great, and Joe's over there at the moment actually saying that. But no, fantastic. What is going on going forward then, Will, in the world of William Polston?
Work-wise, we're just doing more of the same. So got a podcast, and I don't know whether it's worth plugging, 'cause it might be something that people want to listen to.
Yeah, please do, because I've only just literally caught up with it the other day when I've noticed you actually doing the videos ones now as well. Get into them a little bit. And Tiernan come on the first one?
One of the earlier ones that we did them in person. Yeah, so I've had the podcast for about 5 years. I mean, I've interviewed world-leading experts on anything to do with mindset, really. You know, from Britain's #1 therapist to world-leading experts on happiness and peak performance and flow state and meditation, and Neil Donald Walsh, and people that have survived. One guy, incredible guy, was on the 78th floor of the Twin Towers when the plane hit, and he was blind. So you can imagine being blind, all you're hearing is everyone screaming, and you've got your blind dog there, and you've got to get down 78 flights of stairs when everyone's piling down you, and all you can smell is gasoline. So some really interesting stories. But that, again, is an inspirational story because he shares what he then went on to do. So yeah, we've had some really, really cool people. and it's called North Star Conversations. And I think that if people are looking for a bit of inspiration, particularly some of the earlier episodes that we used to do, nowadays they're quite focused around people's kind of business stories and what they're doing and some of the stuff they've done with me. But some of the episodes from 5 years ago with some of these world leading experts.
One of your recent ones that come out, Neil Sweeney, he's a good character, isn't he?
Yeah.
I just remember them because his security business was Securo, and the branding. I always liked what he done with the branding, and I know he spoke about it, and obviously in that. But early doors, that was a few years ago when I saw it, when I went and met them, went to his office. I always thought that because you could always see it looked professional, and the branding and how that. And there was actually from that. I think there's probably 3 or 4 different companies. Power Day would be one of them, is actually in terms of how people use especially more in the construction world, because there's not many, as you all know, who are actually using branding that well in the construction world. I don't think there was so much potential to be done more in construction in terms of how businesses are branded. But you're doing a bit of work in the construction world a little bit, haven't you? You had a bit of a crossover over the last few years, with a bit bitter and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I guess with construction with me, so I can't change a light bulb. I'm useless, but when it comes to that component, but I got involved with an organisation called the British and Irish Training Alliance, which I'm now a non-exec director of, and I think that probably 60% of my clients are involved with construction to some degree, whether that's their architects, whether they're security companies, whether they build luxury swimming pools, whether they're M&E companies, architects, whatever. So I do a lot of people, and I think that's because there's a lot of people that leave school, set up a construction company, work really hard, build something quite substantial because they've worked hard, but they get to a point where they can't work any harder. So they hit what I call the glass ceiling, and the glass ceiling is a time to do something different and change gears.
It's quite a good analogy, though, isn't it?
And
You can see that.
Yeah, I think of it like in driving your car and being in 3rd gear, you're redlining. But if we change from 4th gear and then up to 5th gear, we can go further, faster, but on less revs.
Yeah.
And that's what I've been able to do with a lot of those guys. And look, I worked in finance for a few years, but I didn't go to university. I didn't even do my A levels. You know, I've got other qualifications along the way because I went and studied part-time and stuff.
Yep.
But I can empathize. I can't even say the word now. Empathize with some of those people that they've worked really hard and now they want to do stuff differently.
It's rewarding, isn't it? Especially for you and when you see that the company then flourishes and does well, and they get.
Do you know?
Does anyone get to the North Star? Is that the story?
That's the whole point. Yeah, that's the whole point. And the reason I use the analogy North Star, it's a really good point actually, is that the famous old story that everybody's heard of, where there was a little baby born in December a couple of thousand years ago in a stable, and there were 3 men supposedly wise all carrying these things. They used the North Star to guide them there. But in every version of the story I've ever heard, they never went to the North Star. And that's the bit that I love. That's the whole point, is we use the North Star as the guiding light. We're not saying I'm going to get here and then that's it. It's done. And that's why you can every day work like you know, whatever it is you'd be doing.
Yep.
If it was, let's imagine that, which would be amazing if you got to the point where there were no suicides in construction.
Yeah.
You're not going to go, right, there we go, lads, done the job. Shut the door, off we go, let's move on to the thing next. Because there'll be another layer down. You're going to go, right, we've eradicated suicide in construction. What's next? Right, let's work on anxiety. Let's work on depression. Let's work on whatever these other components may be. And look, if we want to unpack it in more detail, so I believe that anxiety is fear of the future. Depression is comparing a fantasy to a reality in terms of what people are experiencing, and that comes down to thinking, you know, putting practical things in place. I believe that any negative emotion is simply a signal to think or act differently. That's it. You know, sometimes we do need to act differently. Sometimes we need to think differently, and having the frameworks and the processes to be able to do that.
That makes sense with the negativity, doesn't it? So I've got a sore spot for that. I don't like negativity, no matter what. get out of it, be positive, even though it's hard.
But how do you do that though? So because it's good saying that, but it's well, how for someone listening, how do they do that? And that comes with just taking a different view, isn't it? You know, if something's a quote unquote negative situation, there's a great little fable. There was, and I'm going to get this wrong, but I'm going to do my best to try and get it right. About a farmer who had a son, no, the farmer. I want to do this. I want to do this justice, but a farmer's horse ran away, and the neighbours come over and said, "Oh my God, isn't it terrible? Your horse has run away." And the farmer went, "Maybe so." Anyway, a few days later, the horse that ran away came back with like 6 more horses, and the neighbours went, "Oh my God, isn't it great that all of your horses have come back with all these horses?" And maybe so. Anyway, then the son broke his leg and said, "Oh my God, isn't it terrible that your son's broke his leg?" Said, maybe so. Anyway, a few days later, whoever it is come around and said, "Oh, we're taking, like, we've got to go to war. So anyone that's of a certain age needs to go to war." Well, because his son had a broken leg, he didn't have to go to war. Maybe so. So it's like, well, is it bad or is it good, or hasn't it just played out yet? And there's lots of things that happen in life. I think Steve Jobs famously said, "We can't connect the dots looking forward. We can only connect the dots looking backwards." Slightly disagree with it, and the reason I disagree with it is because with using the viewer perspective, you can take a situation and go, how right now is, no matter what's going on in our life, perfect. Because if we can see that whatever is happening right now is not happening to us, it's happening for us, everything is on the way, not in the way, then our life can change. And a really practical way of being able to do that comes down to knowing your core values. So every single one of us has a set of values that's unique as the fingerprint on the end of our finger. And when we identify what our core values are, and I can go through a process to explain how to do that, when you see when a situation's playing out that isn't the way you want it to be, when you make a conscious decision to see how it's serving your values, the negativity of the situation goes. And all of a sudden, it's no longer a negative situation. It's just a situation. There's a formula, E plus R equals O. Event add response equals outcome. So any event can take place, but it's the response that you have that determines the outcome. And if people focus on that, like the difference it will be to their life is huge.
You look at things where people I've heard heroic people have come back from war, lost limbs, let's say, and then they go ahead and go on to amazing Paralympic medals, or beyond that, save multiple lives and just become incredible people. And they do turn around. I'm not talking for them. I've heard them say, "I would never change anything if I could ever go back."
And that's the key. Yeah. So I wear this ring, and on the inside of the ring, it says, "I'm grateful for all that I am, all that I do, all that I have. Thank you, thank you, thank you." It's a power of gratitude. If anybody has ever had something happen at some point in the past that they go, if they ever say to themselves, "I wish I could go back and change that. I wish I could go back and change that," then they're living in a delusion. You know, when you're truly grateful with whatever's happening in your life, no matter how bad it may seem, you wouldn't change it. No. And there's a process to go through that. There's a process we've got called cultivating an attitude of gratitude, which, again, on my podcast, anything that I share with clients, like, I don't hold anything back. The only difference is that if people want to do it with me or any of my team, they do it. So if you went and started on podcast 1 and worked your way through it, you'll basically hear everything that I've ever done and do with clients. I used to run a 20-hour event across 2 days called Unlock Your Potential. Basically, all that content's on the podcast that people can go and listen through and watch. It's all there.
Your journey.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But no, I like that. Let's bang on, because I always think about it as well. I always think about, especially when you look at going forward and being positive, or things happen for a reason. If you sit back and dwell on your past, you're wasting energy thinking about something you can't change, aren't you? That's what I think. Just crack on, get on with it. It is what it is. Yeah. I'm a bit too laid back sometimes, I get told. But yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what I want to do, Steve, for the purpose of this. So if anybody's listening to this episode, so I wrote a book called North Star Thinking, Master Your Mindset and Live a Life You Love. Yep. I want to donate 10 copies to Construction Sport. So if anybody's listening to this and they want a copy, can you tell them an email address or something they can go into, and then we can just send one to them?
Drop us a message, info@constructionsport.com.
Yeah.
First 10. Going
first 10. I'll give, and then once those 10 have gone, then anyone wants to go to
And the millions watch this back.
Yeah, not if they want to go, then get it on Amazon or wherever else you want to get.
Have you done an audio one?
Yeah, there's an audio
There
book
is.
version. Yeah.
I'll get on some of that. I'm an audio man. No, with children. No time for a book, unfortunately, anymore. Going on holiday, and there is a kids club, so I should get an hour a day, squeeze it in. But William Polston, my dear friend, thank you very, very much, my man, for coming up.
My
Thank you
pleasure.
for your help and support over the years. And we'll do an uncut version on the podcast one day. When we've like made our North Stars or whatever, and we realise we can tell all.
Reveal all of the secrets, all of the COS 2008.
Well, a few rugby tours, a few stag do's. It's been some funny times, but we're older and wiser now.
Yeah, 20 years since we left school.
Yeah, you said that. That's crazy. Yeah. So I remember when I said we've been out of school for 16 years and we left school at 16. But you're right now, it's 20 years, isn't it? It's 20 years? Yeah, we're 36, aren't we now?
Have you started going grey yet? Have you had grey hairs?
Someone says there was a couple in the beard the other day, not in the hair.
That's just a little bit of mayo that fell out of your sandwich.
No, I'm doing all right on that one. And are you going grey?
No.
That's not
I'm just
grey.
losing my hair. I've already had one hair transplant. I'm due for my second one. I'm not even 37
Are you
yet.
aching more? You got pains?
Do you know what? In all seriousness, yeah, a little bit. But I've talk about sort of alcohol. I've for this month I'm having no sugar. Like, I've had a bit of a thing with sugar over the years.
Yeah,
so I'm just
love
trying to
a bar
eradicate. Yeah, which I blame your wife for. It's actually it's the Wilson's fault. Do you know this story?
Yeah,
or
I
not?
remember, vaguely remember it. Seen it.
So yeah, it's it's all Tina's fault. But no, sugar. I have a weird relationship with sugar. Sugar's my go-to. Like when I'm stressed, I'll have sugar. When I'm bored, I have sugar. When I've had a celebration, I'll have sugar. So it become this kind of a bit of everything. And then you know what it's like. You get older, you stop playing sport.
Yeah.
You all of a sudden it's like you eat the same and you're not exercising as
you
much. All of a sudden
expect-
everything's getting a little bit tight.
Yeah.
But more so than things just being tight, it was actually the thing that was starting to worry me was my blood sugar levels and the impact that was having that, and some of the symptoms that were starting to come through are things that I didn't want to prolong.
Yeah.
So yeah, look, we have to adapt.
Have
we
you ever
to
looked at
change.
testosterone levels? Have you done anything on that?
So I've done a lot around these kind of stuff, and yeah, my testosterone levels generally have been okay. It's interesting at the moment for one of my programs. I've got one of the world leading experts on life longevity that is doing programs and all sorts of stuff on us. And he has an opinion on testosterone, which I think is really interesting, which is it comes back to doing the basics, the fundamentals, is that what can happen is that somebody could get tested for their testosterone on one particular day, that because of stuff they've eaten the day before or whatever else, it might say it's low or it's high. So you could have a doctor do something, go, oh yeah, your testosterone is really good today because of something you did, but actually normally the base level's much lower and stuff. But very long-winded answer to your question. So yes, I have had it done, but I haven't done sort of TRT or anything.
Yeah, no, we're just dabbling a little bit. Well, we're doing a little test. The three of us can do a little test on our next vlog next week. There was a talk by a guy called Brian Park. Don't know if you come across that name. He done a talk a week on site. It really, he's looked at the science behind men's health in general, and he come on a project I was on the other day. He was in the finance world, and then he 2017 come across a few situations what led into the self-development side, and now he pushes a lot on the health and the science of men particularly. And he opened my eyes to a few things. I was like, But I loved it when people come in, especially the construction sector, and go, "This is the science. This is why things are so bad here." To me, I'm like, brilliant. We need this industry to listen. You know what I mean? It's like X-Files. The truth is out there, but it's like the science is there, guys. We just need to adopt it and build it into a culture where we can.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot to be said. I'm a huge advocate for functional health practitioners. So what I mean by that is, rather than going to a doctor that signs you off pills and prescriptions that you go and that the big pharma are basically getting all the money from, if functional health is like sometimes it is doing the basics, like we said earlier: sleep, nutrition, water, some form of meditation, like just doing 10 minutes of meditation a day, eating clean, making sure you get a quality sleep and getting some good water, like or good volume of water. That I'm not going to say it's going to solve all problems because I'm not that stupid. I know it's not, but it can go a long way in making a difference.
We set up this little campaign last year off the back of me going to someone, don't come to me on a Monday morning telling me you're hungover and your life's going really bad and you're depressed when all you've done in the last 2 days, you drink 30 pints of lager and you've not touched a bottle of water in a week. And then you think, it was literally me just pissed off and got the ump with someone. I was like, you're not even putting water in your body and you're wondering why, to me, you feel shit and depressed and why life's so bad.
And that's the key, isn't it? Is if you treat the cause, the symptoms go.
Yeah.
Now, there's a question for, well, what was needing to be, what was really going on for the need to drink 30 pints or whatever in the first place? So there's looking at those components, but help yourself first. Right. Well, let's look at the quick wins. The quick wins are stop, drink enough, and then if there's still stuff underlying, then we can get onto that and we can work through that. But you're 100% right.
Yeah, that was my quick answer to telling someone, leave me alone. If you can't help yourself, no one can help you, was my theory. But William Polston, thank you, my man. It's been emotional. Have a lovely weekend.
Thank you, and you.
We've made it for another week. Cheers, brother.